Welcome back to Basketball Illuminati. Jake Fischer, how are you? People's Insider.
I'm here. I'm good to be with y'all because I'm with y'all and I'm good. How about that? How does that sound?
Yeah. That's great. I'm a little upset you're not wearing your third eye hat, and kind of was expecting.
It's over there. Should I go get it?
No, I don't want to.
Look, I'm going to Barclays tonight. I took a shower for the first time in a couple days, and the hair's looking good. So I felt like I should not ruin the hair, even more so than what the headphones would do. So I apologize, but Maze has it, and it looks beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping that third eye open at all times.
We've already got a trade here. I guess two, technically. We got Thomas Bryant going to the Indiana Pacers for to fill their backup center slot for a heavily protected second-round pick. And also Dennis Schroder from the Brooklyn Nets going to the Golden State Warriors. And now we're trying to figure out, is that the move before the move? And Jake Fischer and Mark Stein at the Stein line, you're reporting that, you know what, there's a little wrinkle here. Why don't you tell the people what the wrinkle is?
You know, we weren't even so aware of it yesterday. Like was it yesterday? Saturday. All the days blend together. And then I was literally, so I sat down at like 4:00 in the afternoon on Saturday to roll together something that would have been enjoyable. And got a text message. Check on Dennis to Golden State. And everything that was on the tray in front of me had to get put to the side. And so we're tracking all that down. I had to go pick up an antipasti platter from my local pork store. Shout out Emily's Pork Store in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, because
big
of the
friends of the pod. Mm-hmm.
Big friends of the pod. I mean, they probably don't even know what a podcast is. This is such an old, like, if The Sopranos hung out at this pork store, that would be, it's that exact image. But yeah, I'm like waiting. This was like right after figuring out the Reese Beekman inclusion, going back to Brooklyn. And then I got a call from Philly as I'm literally looking at this butcher in the eyes about to say, hey, can I pick up my platter? Got the call about Jared McCain. So Saturday was crazy. We didn't really figure out until yesterday, Sunday, that in regards to this new 2023 CBA, everyone's talking about the aprons, right? What the first apron doesn't let you do, what the second apron doesn't let you do. There's now this new clause that if you're traded by today, we're recording this, Monday, December 16th, instead of the typical you have to wait 2 months to be reaggregated again, this is like kind of a new wrinkle of the CBA to directly encourage this exact thing that happened. Someone getting traded on the 15th and executed, exacted, officially gone through the waiver wire by the 16th in order to have those players still be combinable in a future deal. So what does this mean to your original question, Tom? Dennis Schroder could, in fact, be included again by Golden State in another deal. He could be sent out the door with other players to potentially go get another bigger prize. So that is definitely something that is a real undercurrent, a piece to this puzzle, that why this deal happened now, not just the fact that Golden State lost won 2 of their last 10 games now after getting beat up by Klay Thompson's return game last night. And the DeAnthony Melton injury certainly was a big blow to their, they were like 12-3. They were first in the West for a little stretch. So they know they got to do something.
Hey, Amin, how many return games can you have? Like, this is the second return game for Klay. What is the statute of limitations on return games?
I think that after the first one is done, we're out. Like, we're good.
I think we're done.
We're gone. We're not. Now it's just a regular game.
Are you calling me out, or are you calling Klay out?
No, I'm calling everybody. I did it yesterday, the second return game, and I'm just sitting here being like, hey, how many times you got to do this? Is this a Curb episode? I think this is a Curb episode.
The only way you can have a second return game is if you're like Mark Jackson. Remember Mark Jackson played for the Pacers and then got traded to the Nuggets, and then got traded back to the Pacers, and then obviously leaves the Pacers again to go to New York, I want to say. That he can have multiple return games because he left the Pacers twice. But if you left and now this is the second time we're playing you, not a return game.
I disagree. You get as many return games as you have championship rings with that franchise.
Ooh.
Wow. Oh.
So Clay's got two more.
So Mark Jackson shouldn't have had any return games.
Exactly.
Wow.
I like this. I like this balance.
So Charles Barkley never has a return game, no matter where he goes.
Never had a return game.
Zero.
Well, that's kind of out of Amin's neck of the woods. Miami apparently, remember they put out a statement that there was not going to be a tribute video to Kyle Lowry or Caleb Martin when Philadelphia went down there because they only tribute players who won a championship.
They won the championship. Yep.
Which I thought was pretty cold blooded. Kyle Lowry was there on two different finals runs. He doesn't get any credit for the pennant.
Caleb Martin should have been the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, right? Like a lot of people were like, "Hey, he should have won it." So, damn.
Wait, so my third eye is tickling right now. It's kind of twitching a little bit. So Miami sends Thomas Bryant now over to Indiana to clear a roster spot. This kind of feels related in some way. Is that the Miami Heat clear a roster spot? The Dennis Schroder trade happens. People are connecting Jimmy Butler and Golden State. Now here comes Mike Dunleavy Jr. going on the record and saying, we really like this team. We really like it. I don't really think we need to, I'm paraphrasing here, make any big upgrades. I don't know. It kind of feels like this is the move before the move, Jake.
I think it can be both. I think if all goes well and this team is right back in the top of the West and Dennis is defending like he does when he's playing for Team Germany. And, Steve Kerr got a very up close and personal look at Dennis Schroder playing for Team Germany, both in the 2023 World Cup and they played Germany again in those preliminary scrimmagey games that they do, right? And last year in the Olympics, and obviously what he's doing in Brooklyn right now, or what he was doing in Brooklyn this season, was some of his career best stuff. They're really hoping that Dennis can defend at some type of level, not just provide the scoring uplift. That's like the real piece of this. They really do need to have someone uplift their offense when Steph goes to the bench. So that's an important thing to have between now and February 6th. If it doesn't go so well, you could flip him again, or you're adding to this new Dennis Schroder edition, and you're figuring out, okay, maybe the Kevon Looney, Trace Jackson Davis, front court platoon we have isn't good enough. Maybe we need to go get another big. Like, I think there's ways that they are not done, but they're not just sending Dennis out the door.
Well, Jake, here's the thing that I'm curious about, because you wrote about this. There was another version of this deal that was even bigger that had Cam Johnson, who I think would be a great fit for Golden State. What was ultimately the thinking to not go for the bigger deal for them?
Yeah, to be clear, I don't think that this trade, like the final discussions were like taking Cam out and we're making it a smaller version. I think, from my understanding, Golden State had interest in both those guys, and on the phones they were saying that. I don't think there was like a blow-by-blow, okay, we can't figure this out for Cam and Dennis, like as things got into the final 48 hours, 72 hours of this thing. I definitely know that Golden State had interest in both those guys. I don't think it was such a, let's, add A plus B plus C equals D, and then we'll take out B and C and just make A equal D kind of thing. On a real negotiation standpoint, I think that was more of like a big picture-y, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Like think board, on the whiteboard. We would like to get Cam and Dennis. I mean, Dorian Finney-Smith has plenty of value too for a playoff contender. I'm sure that there were some talks there. The other complicated thing here, and this is something admittedly I'd like to make more phone calls about this week, Brooklyn is the one team looming out there with real cap space that could go out and throw a restricted free agency offer sheet at Jonathan Kuminga, who, in theory, if you're the Nets, and you're giving up two legitimate starter caliber players to a team that is trying to win the title, you would want to probably get that guy back. So that's the type of stuff I need to call more on this week, candidly. But yeah, I think ultimately teams call, they say, hey, we like this guy, we like that guy, who do you like on our roster? When it got to real negotiations to make this thing happen over the last, couple days before it happened, I think it was pretty centered on just Dennis.
So the thing that there's a lot of weird things happening in the league. For instance, Jonathan Kuminga is starting over Draymond Green. Draymond Green has decided, I'm coming off the bench. It seems like they're load managing, not just Draymond, but Steph. They bring in Dennis Schroder to take some load off of him. What is the Jonathan Kuminga market looking like? Because he could potentially be in a package going to Miami in a Jimmy Butler deal, but who knows if Miami wants to take a flyer on a guy who's going to be a restricted free agent, who is still 22 years old. So he's not quite on the same timeline as Bam Adebayo, but similar with Tyler Hero, who I think is 24. I mean,
but counterpoint though, Jimmy's got an opt-out. And so Jimmy, theoretically, maybe not in practice, but theoretically, he could walk and they could get nothing. Yep. So part of this in play is the desire to get value for Jimmy Butler on some level, because they know they don't want to pay him either the years of the money he's looking for, but also they can't just let him walk and then, all right, now we're just a Jimmy Butler-less Miami Heat team. Kuminga's a guy that you get halfway through the season, you get a look, and if you like it, you have the tools to keep him. And if you don't like it, then at least you tried something.
Yeah. The Kuminga thing in Golden State is so interesting, to Tom's point, being that if he plays really well, trade value is going to be through the roof. But also, if he plays really well, you're probably going to be more inclined to want to keep him. Yeah. Same thing on the opposite side of the spectrum. If he doesn't play poorly, if he plays poorly, you're probably going to be more inclined to want to move him, but his trade value will be on decline. So that's why, you want to, in theory, avoid this situation and come to the extension agreement if you're both sides, if you're player and team. And I think that's far more. I mean, we're seeing it around the league now. I don't know off the top of mind. I probably should have wrote about this and committed it to memory, how many guys of this rookie extension class were eligible to sign and how many did not, because you just talk to any agent, any team executive right now. The name of the game is so simple. You don't want to go to free agency. Look at what happened to our guy, Caleb Martin, who did not get Eastern Conference Finals MVP and did not get the contract that he wanted to. Gary Trent did not get the contract he wanted to. I don't want to keep naming names and calling out people who didn't get money, but it's just the opposite side of that coin is you want to get traded to the situation where like Pascal Siakam in Indiana. The Pacers were pretty damn confident he was going to want to extend there or re-sign there. And I think Pascal Siakam and his side of things were very confident that the Pacers were going to reward him with the max contract that he did get. That deal gets done. You don't want to be in this situation like Kuminga and Golden State, where you need each other, but also you could potentially be exes very, very soon. And either of you could pull the plug on the relationship. It is a very curious thing.
By the way, this is the Sam Presti philosophy, right? Sam Presti famously was like, we don't let him get to free agency. Reggie Jackson, Kendrick Perkins, who they did extend, Jeff Green. The one exception, the only guy they didn't do that with,
whoopsies,
was the one that burnt them the worst, which is Kevin Durant, 2016.
Yes. And the Jimmy thing, too, to go back to an OKC guy, Jimmy's situation right now, upcoming next summer, what a meme is talking about with his player option, that really reminds me of James Harden in Philadelphia 2 summers ago, where he could have opted out, could have walked on the open market, but there wasn't stuff for him. Ime Udoka in Houston, we don't want you, James. I'm sorry.
He came out with that one.
and there wasn't really anywhere else for him to go. So what does he do? He opts in and says, I want you to trade me to the Clippers. And at the time, a lot of people in the league, I was very doubtful myself that they were going to be able to call their shot like that. Lo and behold, they get it done 2 months into the season. It was November 5th or something like that. Jimmy's in the same exact boat. There's not many teams. I mean, everyone, Brandon Ingram in New Orleans, he's not going to have a very wide optionality for a potential unrestricted free agency home for him to just walk into. And not everyone can sign with Brooklyn, right? If Brooklyn ends up clearing $70 million in cap space, well, you can't give everyone the $40 million payday that they're wanting.
Right.
So someone's bluffing, whether it's Kuminga, the interest with Kuminga, whether it's I'm not drawing that straight line to everyone to Brooklyn, but I'm saying we're going to hear Brooklyn listed for everyone. Jimmy Butler is going to be, if he opts out, you're going to hear all the buzz. Well, Brooklyn has 70 million in space or whatever. And it's just, I don't know if that's going to actually be there. I think that's part of Miami's thinking and all this too. Like, where are you going to go? You're going to opt out? Who's paying you the money?
A lot of money in this NBA Cup that is on the line for all the teams that are vying for it. Your first piece over at the Stein line was about the future of the NBA Cup and all the international EuroLeague swirlings as well, and just what is the future of this, and also with expansion. Right after your story got posted, Joe Varden at The Athletic reporting that FIBA is now in talks or exploratory talks with the NBA in some sort of partnership, licensing, NBA League, Europe style. So you were ahead of that story as well. What is the latest, Jake, and what is your understanding of the future of NBA Cup and the expansion overseas potentially to like a NBA Euro? I don't even know what it would be branded as.
To be clear, I think we're talking, everything I'm about to say, I think is over the lifespan of a 5-10 year conversation. That's how the league office operates about this stuff. They're always trying to, this new TV deal is taking care of the next 10. So they're trying to figure out ways to build on top of that, right? And back in the summer when Adam Silver was over in Paris for the Olympics, there was all this buzz about how he was meeting with EuroLeague officials and FIBA guys and trying to figure out how to potentially create this NBA European League. And the details are kind of murky, I think, even still now. Like, the chatter behind the scenes is, would they just buy EuroLeague? Would they just try to make a competing thing? I don't know. I don't know exactly what the outcome is going to be. But what I do know is the NBA wants to have a continually increased presence overseas. Of course, we see the Paris games, not the Olympic games that we were just talking about, but Indiana and someone, is it Victor? Yeah. Indiana and San Antonio, right?
Well,
they're playing back-to-back games.
Yeah, it's weird.
Why would they pick them now?
Yeah. And then, every year now we're getting a preseason tour of Abu Dhabi, what country does Emirates, the new title sponsor of the NBA Cup, do their business based out of?
And by the way, and the ref jerseys.
And the ref jerseys, someone did ask me, they were like, where is that money going? Where is the jersey sponsor for the refs? Where is that money going? It's probably not going to the refs.
It's BRI, baby.
Who's to say? So, yeah, I went to JFK on the Tuesday that the NBA Cup tipped off. They had James Worthy and a bunch of influencers literally fly on an Emirates plane with the NBA Cup trophy, like a gigantic.
Why did you have to distinguish James Worthy from the influencers? Can't James Worthy be an influencer? Can't he just be with his peers, Jake?
Can't the influencers be worthy?
It's true. It's true. They were worthy enough of a round trip flight to Abu Dhabi, where they then accompanied the NBA Cup like some sponsored Olympic torch across the country, across the globe. And Emirates officials were there on the scene talking about what a momentous occasion this was. And they had an NBA plane. It was wrapped in this NBA paint job. And for some reason, the first class on this flight that was flying it's still flying until tomorrow. December 17th is the last day, equivalent with the NBA Cup championship, that this NBA Emirates plane has been flying all over North America.
What happens to the plane though after
they've been using it? They've been using it. It's been in.
So you might end up on a NBA plane if you take an Emirates flight during the NBA Cup.
Yes, there have been probably hundreds of people. Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's been flying for the last.
There are dozens
2
of
months.
us. Yes,
there are many of us. I hope someone is listening, and you guys can find someone who was lucky enough to fly on the Emirates NBA plane, and they can regale you with the tales of eating what I think is.
So do they retire it like in a hangar, like when?
Probably
don't
take
have
the
that
paint
information
off,
for
Tom.
you.
That'd be my guess. Repaint it. Take
Repaint
the
it?
wrap
Just
off.
do that. Yeah. But it was so funny. Like Adam Silver walked down to the tarmac and took a picture with it, and he was saying of all the things in the NBA, this is one of the greatest days in the NBA's history to have their own plane.
I agree. This sounds awesome.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was crazy. But yeah, all this is to say, I don't think Emirates is putting their name and paying a lot of money on this tournament that is inspired by overseas international soccer. And according to my reporting, one of the original ideas that the league wanted to do for the NBA Cup was to bring in 2 European teams, make it 32, half of the NCAA tournament, have it be a single elimination tournament, and go from there. There's been the idea of potentially having all the losers, all the teams who don't make the playoffs,
The losers, yeah.
go
Loser Cup?
the loser cup, go have some like second season in Europe. That idea never really got off the ground, to be clear, from my understanding. But all these pieces and the fact that the NBA is starting to allow governance and ownership pieces of the pie to be sold to these foreign entities, I'm just starting to connect all these dots. My third eye is definitely twitching and wondering how far down the line is maybe this Vegas, Final Four. Maybe that's just in Abu Dhabi one day. Maybe it's even bigger. Maybe one day when the league has this European league of sorts, whether it's EuroLeague, whether it's their own competing league,
Right.
maybe they're going to have a European bracket mixed in with the NBA bracket, and it's a whole bigger caboodle one, single elimination type of thing. They don't have that answer, to my knowledge, like ironed out yet. I think there's still all these pieces in play, but I'm just waiting to see if we could figure out how to get some European flavor, some Middle Eastern flavor, and make this thing a super global entity. Because I think that's the biggest criticism right now of anyone who does critique the NBA Cup. It's that, all right, these are just regular season games with a different court and like a little bit more money at the end. So we'll see. For now, I've been told they're very focused on trying to make this iteration work well before adapting it. But I don't know. Emirates is sponsoring the NBA Cup, and the NBA Cup doesn't take place in the UAE.
It's not American Airlines Cup.
Exactly.
So the interesting thing, so talking about this European dalliances that the NBA has, which Commissioner Stern years and years ago, he had this vision of, we're going to have NBA Europe over there. He had a lot of these kind of like, I won't call them cockamamie, but very pie in the sky things. One of them was an NBA franchise in Europe, or franchises in Europe, London, Paris, Berlin, whatever. But then there was another one where it's like, okay, we're going to have our own European league based out of Europe that is run and operated by the NBA and with NBA standards, right? So that had come and gone, and I thought it kind of went with Stern. But the Varden story was about how FIBA is in talks with the NBA to do something there. And now I know what you think is like, oh, why would they? Don't they already have EuroLeague? No, because EuroLeague is a private enterprise. It is owned by, I believe, 12 member teams, the big ones that you've heard of, Real Madrid and Barcelona and FS Pilsen and all of them, right? They own it, and then they have some at-large bids that they give out. And most of the at-large bids go to the teams that win the Euro Cup, which is the minor league version, not minor league, but like the next tier of competition down from Euro League, also owned by EuroLeague. Now, here's where it gets interesting, everybody. The charter teams have a license that expires after the 2025-2026 season, right?
Look at that.
Now, they have verbally committed to re-upping their license, but nothing has been signed or agreed to yet. Enter the NBA and FIBA. Well, what was it? Why would FIBA get in bed with the NBA after they've always been kind of very standoffish? Well, once upon a time, the EuroLeague was a FIBA entity. They ran it. They ran it like the UEFA runs Champions League. In 2000, the big club said, why are we doing this thing? We're the ones that bring in the money. We're the ones that are running this shit, basically. They basically pulled the Super League, if you're a soccer fan. They pulled the Super League move and pulled it successfully. So FIBA's kind of been on the outside looking in of elite club basketball play in Europe in terms of the money making and all that. So now they're like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. They're going to get together. They want to create this thing. And instead of David Stern's idea of having the Berlin Barons and the Madrid Matadors or whatever, you get the legacy programs. You get Barcelona, you get Real Madrid, you get Asbel up in Paris. And now you don't have to do any of this counter marketing against these powerhouses. You got them already. And then you introduce NBA money, NBA marketing, NBA business practices.
You could get James Worthy over there. Like
you get James Worthy and influencers.
And influencers to go over there. Yeah. And then they license out the NBA brand, and it's a partnership just like the existing EuroLeague, where it's like you can go play in your domestic leagues, but maybe during the week or a couple times a year, you come over to the United States and play. That's kind of what I'm trying to figure out is the logistics of it, right?
So,
but,
like
but the business side, what you're
I think
sketching
they are
out.
still too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now what we're looking at is, okay, if in several years we have a NBA Europe League that is sanctioned by FIBA, right? Competing against EuroLeague, yes, the actual EuroLeague, yes, but guess what? We've got all the big names. All the hot shit want to be with us over here. Now you've opened the door for what Jake is suggesting, this NBA Cup or this whatever tournament that happens in Abu Dhabi or happens wherever it does. But instead of having, like I said, the Berlin Barons who are still trying to figure out how to be alive and functional, you're getting legacy teams. Mm-hmm. You're like that stadium is not just filled because people want to see NBA players. They're also filled because these are people that have an affinity with all this stuff. And you get a more competitive product, I think, as opposed to trying to poach the best players in Europe from the legacy clubs. You already got the best players in Europe. So now we're getting great competition. This thing grows. I love this. I love this, like you said, Jake, this Machiavellian planning years in advance to take out basically this obstacle. I won't call him a rival because there is no rival to the NBA, but it is an obstacle to making money in Europe.
Bring the competition to you or bring your competition to them and beat them in their own sandbox.
So wait, doesn't this mean that the Spurs don't want this? San Antonio Spurs are like, we got Wemby, and now you're going to build a French team or have a French team in the NBA. We're never going to be able to keep Wemby now.
Well, they're not in the NBA,
Rudy,
per se.
Rudy, how do you feel about this? Having the NBA have a French team there in Paris.
More bidders for Rudy's services. C'est bon.
Okay,
I like this. More
you heard it here first.
Yeah, he's on it. Jake, what are the other things I think you talked about, or maybe I saw it somewhere else, was that the idea that the Emirates Cup is going to be in Vegas apparently isn't even set in stone for next year. Have you heard any of this? There's this talk about it could be anywhere. Hell, it could be in Abu Dhabi next year.
I don't know about the specifics of the contract with T-Mobile Arena, but one thing I do know is that the league is absolutely looking at this on a year-by-year basis. Like the schedule was such a different thing last year. Forget exactly how the days of the week worked, but
it was Thursday. It was a Thursday for the first game, and then I think the final was on a Saturday, I want to say.
Yeah, it's different this year for another example. Like they are really trying to navigate this on like a year-to-year basis. So if Vegas hasn't done enough for them, not saying like Vegas needs to be trying to keep the NBA, Vegas and the NBA's relationship is pretty well established at this point. And I think everyone still fully expects there to be an NBA franchise there when expansion comes. But Yeah, I see a world where the Cup is something like the Super Bowl or March Madness, where it's a traveling thing. Maybe it does go somewhere far and wide. You've been more apprised, Amin, on what the Vegas hosting situation is.
I'm very apprised. Yes, thank you. But I'll tell you one thing. While the NBA loves Vegas, from what I gather, they are less than thrilled about T-Mobile Arena. It's like it's never been said to me directly, like we hate this place or whatever. But I get the vibes. They don't feel like it's up to NBA standards, which is pretty interesting because
why don't they just get on the phone with Jimmy Dolan and say, "Yo, the Sphere, let's clear out." I mean, they're on great terms, the NBA and James Dolan right now. Yeah. I kind of feel like you can just hop on the phone and James will be like, come on down. We got the Sphere state of the art right here.
The other thing, too, maybe it's not even just about infrastructure. I went last year, right? And it just felt, I went to a London NFL game when I was studying abroad in London in 2012. And it was just weird. Like the crowd didn't know. All the crowd wearing Packers jerseys and 49ers jerseys and whatever jersey you want to the Patriots-Rams game I went to. And it's like such a convention of, the NFL fans are here. It was weird that there wasn't a codified, we're cheering for this team and these people are cheering for... I had never been to an NBA game that wasn't a home game before. You know what I mean? And I'm sure, that exists... in the Paris games we were talking about when you go down and play the Mexico game. But when it's on U.S. soil in particular, and it's supposed to like mean something extra. Like the other games are just regular season games in a different location. This is supposed to be the marquee event, the title, the cup. And the crowd was showing up 5 minutes before tip for the championship. And the non-Lakers games were very, very quiet. And I think the Lakers had the very, geographical advantage to bring fans on a short notice thing. So the fans getting there, I think, played a factor in them moving. Now it's a full week since you clinched, right? The championship game, Tuesday to Tuesday. But I don't know. I think having it in a different location might also increase the potential for a real attendance situation. So one of the things that's been discussed about that, to that exact point, is apparently the NBA Cup games have something very in common with NBA All-Star Weekend, which is the fans in the seats, by and large, are corporate partners.
Yes.
The number of actual I'm going to go to Vegas and punk down however many hundreds of dollars to watch this game. There aren't that many of them. So a lot of the dead energy that you sensed last season, and it was a little better this year, but again, it's kind of skewed because a lot of I was at the Hawks and Bucks. I'm like, there's a lot of Atlanta fans, and it's because the Falcons are playing Monday Night Football 2 days later. So there was just a lot of Atlanta in Vegas. So there are a lot of Atlanta people who were in town already.
Yeah, I need Ray McLeod to do it for me tonight.
Oh, wow.
He already did it for you, Jake.
He already did it for you.
Yeah. We're on Wednesday. Congratulations.
But the point being is absent the Lakers or absent the Falcons playing Monday Night Football against Vegas, you're getting people who are, by definition, are dispassionate. They don't have skin in the game. It's not like what the NBA wants in the pie in the sky is they want it to be like a bowl game, right? Going to the Peach Bowl and ASU is going to play against the winner of Clemson and whoever. It's like, there's a shit ton of people.
Every hotel.
Yeah, all these people have already, I have all these friends who have booked the hotels and flights to Atlanta on January 1st. That's what they want. They want this thing where, hey, it's Thunder versus Bucks. They want a bunch of people from Oklahoma say, oh shit, we got to get out there. The problem is, in a Final Four type of scenario, I don't know. It's just I don't know that there's enough lead time for people to make that leap, right?
That's why I think this is like the beginning stages of 2 weeks off in the schedule to have a big single elimination tournament, because the Blazers, like, they had 5 games in 7 nights, and then they had 2 games in 10 days. 2 games in 10 days. It's absurd how many days off we had, on broadcast. I was like, man, this is so weird to have in the middle of the season just a week off, basically. And it seems like this is kind of the halfway point between what I think is the ultimate goal, is to just have the league shut down for like 2 weeks and then have a tournament where you say all these teams can get together for like a single elimination tournament. And we're making our way schedule-wise to getting there.
Well, you could still have it where it's like the high seeds have home games, those earlier rounds, right? And then when we get to the Final Four, it's still in Vegas. But I think a lot of that also is all we're talking about is tradition, right? So I went to Georgia Tech. I loved Georgia Tech basketball and all that stuff. Shout out to Damon Stoudemire and Fonzie Wells down there. But like, I, as a college basketball fan, don't know if they're going to make it to the Final Four, even though the Final Four tickets are on sale right now. The only reason why they're able to do that is because we've already established that this thing is something important, which goes back to the beginning of all of this. The NBA has to keep doing, if it's going to be successful, they have to keep doing it in spite of everyone telling them, nobody cares, nobody watches, nobody's going. You got to keep doing it because that's the only way it becomes a thing.
I agree with Amin. There's a chance we wake up 10 years from now and Adam Silver's laughing at all of us. He's like, you idiots, all of you who complained, we just keep doing this, and now it's part of it. Now it exists. We're going to be like, oh, the NBA Cup. If the Thunder, for example, win, and then they win the title, they'll be the first team ever to have won both. And then the next year, whoever wins the NBA Cup, there'll be stories. Oh, are they the favorite now to win the title? Wow. And so on and so forth. It's going to become a thing. It will be part of the NBA's lore at some point in time if you keep doing it over and over and over again.
I just figured out, does that illegitimize the Celtics championship last year? Is that they didn't sweep both?
Because they didn't double up. Yeah, they didn't double up.
If Oklahoma City does this, where they clear both of them, then I think every other championship since the NBA Cup started, it becomes kind of, You got
So here's the other part about this. The other part about this is what I said last year. Somewhere there's like a 12-year-old kid who's a big Laker fan, who watched the Lakers win, and Yankees fan and Cowboys fan, but not anymore.
It's weird.
Sometimes I don't know.
Duke too.
Cowboys are having a very good season last time I checked.
Yeah. So there's this kid who's watching the NBA Cup and sees his favorite team win, and sees how they had like fun celebrating whatever, and thinks to himself, "I want to do that." Maybe that kid is this year. He sees the Thunder and then the Thunder sweep it and like, that's what I want to do. And then 8 years down the line, that kid's in the league, and guess what's on his to-do list? I want to win MVP. I want to win NBA Cup. Like, it's not for us. That's the crazy part about all of this. This ties it back all the way back to what you talked about, the European plans.
Subliminal brainwashing of future generations of NBA stars.
That's right.
Got it.
That's
a long. It's a long con. It's one big long con.
And so
when they grow up,
just want to clarify, in this situation that you're pitching, this kid turns off the TV after the NBA Cup and then turns it on the next year when the NBA Cup starts again. So he missed the play-in game and the Lakers flame out.
Yeah. Oh, well,
And does the kid know how to use a TV?
Maybe the kid is this year. Maybe it's this year's kid. Last year's kid.
We've got a bunch of timelines here. So I want to ask Jake, like earliest, most likeliest in order, the NBA having a Euro League, the NBA Cup being important, expansion teams in Vegas and Seattle, and then also this dream of having a Mexico City team. What is your most likely to least likely power rankings there?
Oh, wow, yeah.
I think the NBA finalizing whatever their EuroLeague deal is going to be seems to be closer than anything else.
Wow.
I think
Okay.
expansion was absolutely like the top thing that apparently the league wanted to do post TV deal. But this stuff, I mean, they were having talks about this summer, and obviously Joe Varden followed up with it more. The NBA Cup becoming a thing, as we're discussing, I think we're going to need 5-10 years of just doing this over and over and over again. What was the fourth one?
Mexico City.
Oh.
You
Yeah.
thought, yeah.
I mean, all these pieces coming together, and there being an NBA Cup that's thriving, the NBA having a EuroLeague presence, and the EuroLeague presence being a funnel system into the own NBA Cup that they have built, I think is probably all like a streamlined situation. So that's my answer.
So one domino will fall, and then all of a sudden Mexico City will be the NBA Cup champions of 2037.
It's possible. It is possible.
You
we're
thought
all still
stars weren't
alive
playing
by
in
then.
Denver? You thought NBA stars weren't playing in Denver or in Utah? Just wait till Mexico City happens, and it's
Shit, let me tell you.
7,500 foot elevation.
But let me tell you what you do that first road trip in Mexico City. There's gonna be a bunch of dudes who's like gonna miss that charter flight out.
Good street
Like-
tacos.
It's a fun town. Fun town.
Jake, how can people find your latest musings? That I think you're on X, but more importantly, you have a super stack now.
We have a super stack from the makers of a super team. We've got a super stack with myself and Mark Stein. It's all at markstein.substack.com. And we're really going to be doing our best to bring you nuanced coverage of the NBA trade market from now through the trade deadline. And then we'll piece together all the leftovers as we go through the spring and really start to turn it forward to the draft and free agency. So if you like the NBA slop, if you like the rumor mill, if you want as much relevant inklings and dot connectings and opening your third eye-isms,
Yes.
we're going to be doing all of that. We're going to be asking questions, and it's coming to you multiple times a week from myself, multiple times a week from Mark, and then we're going to team up to do some co-byline stuff as well. So if you like the NBA transaction game, I humbly believe there's no better place to be following it along than the Stein line, markstein.substack.com. There you go.
And what was the Italian joint that is now sponsoring our show? Without monetary, but what is the name of the place?
Emily's Pork Store. Really
Okay.
good Italian hoagie.